So today is Valentine's Day, a day in which we might celebrate the love that we have for one another, the gift that love really is for all of us, love that ultimately comes from God, where we might give something to someone. And I've always remembered those little candy hearts, and particularly those ones that say, "Be mine." I think in many ways they can define or describe the entire storyline of the Bible. The story of the Bible opens up with humanity and God enjoying a relationship full of intimacy and trust, where God walked in the cool of the day with us, taking long walks through the garden as they talked about what was going on together, and one in which they trusted one another. God trusted us with His creation, and we trusted God in order to live the best way possible. But we also know that that didn't last. We chose not to trust God. Suspicion crept into our relationship, and we did something that broke His heart, and then broke the relationship between us and Him, and between one another as well. But that isn't the end of the story. God pursues His people time and time again, issuing this invitation and this challenge to be mine, to be His people, to reconnect and reunite with Him. And time again, humanity breaks God's heart by refusing Him and by going in a different direction. But God never stops loving and pursuing us, coming after us. And throughout the story of the Bible, we see God pursuing us, His people, time and time again, even though we continually reject Him and break His heart in doing so. With Adam and Eve and Noah and Abraham, with Isaac and Jacob, who's later called Israel, with Joseph and his brothers, with the judges, and with Moses. I mean, there's all kinds of times in which God steps into our world and comes to show us that He loves us and that all He really wants is a relationship with us, one that is full of intimacy and trust, like we had at the beginning, and like He promises we will have if we choose to trust and to love Him. And eventually God comes to us in the person of Jesus, comes and becomes one of us, so that He could bear upon Himself the consequences that we have brought upon ourselves and upon the world, so that He could make a way that we could be reunited with Him, so that He could show us how much He loves us. God continues to pursue and to go after us, no matter what we've done and no matter how many times we break His heart. And this is why John 3:16 is such an important verse within our Bible, and is such a central statement of what it means and what the whole story is, that God so loved the world, and not just the world, but each and every one of us, that He gave His one and only Son, so that whoever believes in Him will not perish, but will have everlasting life, will have new and whole communion with Him, a renewed relationship in a renewed heavens and a new earth, in a place where there will no longer be any mourning or pain or crying or death, a place where we will live again with Him and with one another in full intimacy and trust. And so maybe you could imagine God giving you a little candy that says, "Be mine," on it today. And that is both an invitation and a challenge. An invitation to be His people, to accept His offer of love, to acknowledge that He does love you, and to cultivate those feelings back, to recognize that He is someone that is worthy of love and is worthy of acceptance, and He has done so much for us. But it's also a challenge, particularly for those of us who have accepted His invitation. It's a challenge to actually be His people. To be mine, God says, means to live a particular way, to have the same kind of attitude that He had, to give up Himself for those whom He loves and yet have rejected Him, to do so in a way that causes Him to suffer but sets others free. And so today, may you accept God's invitation and His challenge to be his.